The laboratory on the edge of the barren planet hummed quietly under the pale glow of twin moons. Elias adjusted his gloves, staring at the rows of strange vials, their contents glowing with colors that shifted like liquid fire. He had been warned countless times not to tamper with certain specimens, but curiosity had a way of overwhelming caution. Tonight, the warning came in an unexpected form. A woman. She appeared silently, as if she had materialized from the shadows, her presence commanding yet fragile, and her eyes holding knowledge that unsettled him. "You should not touch it," she said, her voice soft but firm, carrying the weight of authority and warning. "Drink this, and you will never be the same. Never." Her words wrapped around him like a cold wind, stirring unease in a part of his mind he usually ignored. Elias felt the pulse of excitement rising, mingled with fear. The vial she held glimmered with an alien light, swirling and alive. Its glow reflected in her eyes, and Elias could not tell if it was meant to attract him, to warn him, or to test him. He reached for the vial anyway, almost instinctively, feeling the thrill of breaking a boundary. "I need to understand it," he said, his voice shaky but determined. The woman's gaze hardened, but she did not stop him. "Then understand this," she said. "You are about to cross a line. There is no turning back. Your body, your mind. Everything you know will change." She stepped back into the shadows, leaving him alone with the glowing liquid and the weight of his decision. Elias uncorked the vial, and the smell hit him immediately sweet, metallic and faintly of ozone. The liquid seemed to shimmer in the light, moving against gravity as if it had a life of its own. He hesitated for a moment, staring at the swirling colors. His mind raced with questions. What would happen? Was it dangerous? Could it kill him? Yet in that instant, the thrill of the unknown overwhelmed his fear. Without another thought, he raised the vial to his lips and drank. The effect was immediate. A warmth spread through his chest, radiating outward like an invisible fire. His vision blurred, the room bending and twisting in impossible ways. Shadows danced along the walls, shapes and forms he had never seen before, some beautiful, others grotesque. The glow from the vial spread through his veins, lighting him from the inside. He felt a pull toward the laboratory walls, the ceiling, and then beyond. It was as though the liquid had opened a door, a passage to something vast and incomprehensible. Pain came next, sharp and sudden, like electricity surging through every nerve. He fell to the floor, gasping, his body convulsing as the transformation began. Colors exploded behind his eyes, and he could see faint outlines of energy patterns in the room, each molecule vibrating with life. The laboratory equipment glimmered with unknown forces, and the air itself seemed alive, thrumming with power. He heard whispers, faint and fleeting at first, but growing steadily, voices not human, speaking in a language he almost understood. "Elias," it said, repeating his name with a rhythm that made his blood hum. When he finally lifted his head, the world seemed different. Details he had never noticed before were sharp and defined. Tiny particles floated in the air, glowing softly, and his hearing was sharper. Every sound amplified his own heartbeat, the hum of machinery, the distant wind outside the lab. But alongside the awe came a creeping unease. His body felt foreign, as though the potion had rewritten the rules of his muscles, his nerves, his very senses. He flexed his fingers, amazed at their precision, then recoiled at the sensation of power running through them, waiting to be controlled or to control him. The woman reappeared, stepping silently from the shadows. Her eyes were steady, unflinching, but there was an edge of sadness in her gaze. "Do you understand now?" she asked. Elias blinked, struggling to form words. I feel everything," he whispered, his voice trembling. "It's too much." The glow in his body pulsed, almost responsive to his emotions. The woman shook her head. "You have been warned. Change is irreversible. You are no longer just human, Elias, but the choice was yours, and the consequences are coming." Outside the laboratory, the barren planet seemed unchanged, but Elias could feel the shift in reality. Shadows moved differently, The wind carried patterns he could sense. Distant stars pulsed with energy he could almost touch. His mind raced. With questions, how far did the change go? What did he become? Most importantly, what was waiting for him now that the threshold had been crossed? He looked at the vial, now empty, and shivered. It had promised knowledge, power, and transformation, and it had delivered, though not without cost. As he stood, the whispers grew stronger, circling around him, tugging at his thoughts. Come. Learn. Understand. He realized that the journey had only just begun. The potion had opened a door, and beyond it lay mysteries, dangers, and revelations far greater than he could imagine. And somewhere in the shadows, the woman watched, knowing that the first step had been taken, and that nothing would ever be the same again. Elias woke to a world that felt both familiar and alien. The laboratory's faint hum was louder somehow, vibrating through his chest and limbs. His body tingled with energy, each movement precise and almost too fast. When he raised his hands, he could see faint traces of light following his fingers, like the residue of the potion's power. The change had begun fully now. He was stronger, faster, sharper than ever before. And yet a part of him felt distant, as if he were observing himself from outside. The woman's warning echoed in his mind, "You will never be the same." He stumbled toward the observation window, and the planet outside seemed alive. Every rock, every grain of dust, even the wind carried patterns he could perceive. Elias blinked, overwhelmed, but a strange clarity accompanied the confusion. He could hear whispers again, fainter than before, but more coherent, almost guiding him. Some words seemed to form in his mind. See, understand, protect. He realized with a mixture of awe and fear that the potion had not just changed his body. It had expanded his mind, connecting him to forces beyond human comprehension. Curiosity pushed him forward, and he began to experiment. He touched the control panel, and the screens lit up with data he had never seen before. Lines of energy, patterns, and symbols that made no sense, yet somehow resonated with him. The machines responded to his touch almost instinctively, reacting to his thoughts as if they were extensions of his will. Elias marveled at the power, but unease crept into his mind. This was no longer ordinary science. He was no longer an ordinary man. And that realization carried a weight heavier than any he had ever known. From the shadows, the woman watched silently. Her eyes, glowing faintly in the dim light, showed concern, even fear. She spoke softly, almost to herself, but Elias could hear her clearly. "You are crossing a line," she said. "The potion gives knowledge, yes, but it also takes control. The world you know will vanish. The dangers you cannot yet see are approaching." Elias turned, noticing her presence for the first time. "I feel everything," he whispered. "It's like I can see the planet, the lab, even the wind itself. I can hear patterns, life." His voice trembled with awe and fear. The woman nodded, her expression somber. "That is only the beginning. You have opened a door, Elias, and what comes through will not be gentle. The force is drawn to this planet, to you. They will test you." He felt a shiver run through him. Patterns of movement outside the lab shifted subtly. Shadows moved unnaturally across the ground. Something sensed him, something aware, calculating, and waiting. The potion had connected him to the world. Yes, but also to dangers far beyond. Human imagination, as ours passed, he discovered new abilities. He could perceive life forms before they were visible, sense energy flows, and even feel faint traces of thought from creatures nearby. The potion had enhanced him physically, mentally, and perhaps even spiritually. But with each new discovery, a flicker of fear crept in. Was this power his own, or was he slowly becoming part of something else? The whispers were persistent, urging him to explore, to embrace, to learn. And with each urge, the pull toward the unknown grew stronger. Lyra, his assistant and closest companion, had arrived. Noticing the glow surrounding him from the observation deck, her eyes widened at the sight of his transformation. "Elias, what's happening to you?" she asked, voice trembling. He tried to explain, but words failed. I feel connected to everything, but it's overwhelming. I don't know if I'm still me. Her concern was evident, but she also sensed the truth. He was beyond ordinary human now, and nothing could reverse it. The potion had changed him forever, as the woman had warned, by evening. The first hints of danger became impossible to ignore. Equipment malfunctioned around him, seemingly reacting to his presence. Lights flickered in unnatural patterns. Shadows shifted against walls and floors, as if the planet itself were alive and testing him. He realized that the potion had not just changed him, it had marked him, broadcasted his presence to forces drawn to power, knowledge, and life itself. His heartbeat quickened, not from fear but from anticipation. Whatever was coming, he knew. He would have to face it with these new abilities or be consumed. The woman returned, stepping from the shadows as the laboratory dimmed under the twin moons. "They are coming," she said, voice steady, eyes sharp. "You cannot hide. They know now. You have become visible, important, a target. Your power has consequences." Elias looked at her, feeling the weight of the warning. He could feel the distant presence, a ripple through the planet, subtle yet undeniable. The first challenge had begun, and he understood that curiosity had led him here, but survival would demand more than curiosity. It would demand mastery, courage, and perhaps sacrifices beyond human comprehension. He clenched his fists, energy sparking faintly around his body. The whispers guided him, teaching him instinctively, preparing him. Outside, the shadows deepened, movement growing more deliberate, more focused. The transformation was real. The power was real, and the danger waiting for him was imminent. Elias inhaled deeply, knowing that the first true test of his new self was about to arrive, and that everything he had known before this night had ended the moment he drank the forbidden potion. Elias moved cautiously through the laboratory, still adjusting to the heightened awareness the potion had given him. Every sound, every movement, even the faintest vibration in the floor pulsed through his body, as if he were connected to the very planet beneath him. The air was alive with energy, and he could see patterns of light dancing along invisible lines that traced through the room. Each object, each shadow, seemed to hum with meaning, revealing traces of life and activity that his old senses could never perceive. But amid the fascination, a deep sense of unease gnawed him. Something was approaching. Something unseen but deliberate. Outside, the barren landscape shifted strangely.
Ow.
Shadows moved independently of any visible source, and faint distortions in the air suggested a presence that did not belong. Elias could feel their curiosity and their intent. They were intelligent, patient, and focused on him. His pulse quickened not from fear, but from recognition. The potion had not only changed him, it had connected him to forces beyond his understanding, and now they had sensed him. The whispers returned, urgent and insistent, guiding him with fragmented words. "Watch, prepare, they are near." He turned toward the observation deck, sensing movement beyond the horizon. Faint glimmers of light appeared intermittently, like reflections from invisible structures. Elias strained his eyes, but nothing was visible to the normal human eye. Yet he could feel it, calculating, observing, testing. His mind raced as he tried to comprehend the nature of these threats. Were they alien beings, energy entities, or something entirely new? The potion had opened his senses, but it had not given him answers, only awareness, and awareness, he realized, was both a gift and a curse. Lyra entered quietly, her footsteps cautious. "Elias, I think something is coming," she whispered, scanning the horizon with instruments that now seemed almost useless in his presence. "The readings are abnormal. Nothing like this exists in the database." Elias nodded, trying to remain calm. "I can feel them. They're close, but I don't think they mean to kill. Yet they are studying, testing." He paused, focusing on the invisible patterns surrounding the lab. "They want to know what I am, what I can do." The potion's effects pulsed through him as he flexed his hands, feeling the energy respond instinctively, almost as if it were alive. The first sign of the approaching threat revealed itself in subtle ways. A small device on the control panel moved slightly, as though nudged by an unseen hand. Shadows shifted unnaturally along the walls, elongating and twisting in impossible directions. Elias's vision, now enhanced, allowed him to perceive faint traces of movement, forms without mass, entities without solid substance, yet intelligent and aware. The whispers became clearer, guiding him to anticipate and understand. They are not enemies, not yet, but they are curious. They will act soon. Hours passed, and the tension grew. The unseen forces moved closer, probing and circling the lab. Elias experimented cautiously, sending small pulses of energy into the air to gauge their reactions. Each pulse revealed patterns, like ripples across a pond, showing him the extent of their intelligence. He realized that they were learning from him, just as he was learning from the potion. The balance of power was delicate, and a single mistake could trigger conflict. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The first true test of his altered self was imminent, and the consequences could reach far beyond the laboratory. Suddenly, a series of sharp lights flashed outside, forming shapes that defied geometry. Elias raised his hands instinctively, sensing a pulse of energy coming from the horizon. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as though surprised by his awareness. The whispers intensified, almost frantic now. They are testing you. Respond. Do not hesitate. Elias felt a surge of power within him, the potion's effects reaching a new level. He realized he could influence the energy around him, subtly bending the forces toward him, creating a shield that was not physical, but almost sentient in its protection. Lyra watched in awe, noting the energy surrounding him. "Elias, what are you doing?" she asked, her voice a mix of fear and amazement. He turned to her, glowing faintly, eyes reflecting the invisible movements of the unseen entities. "I am learning to defend myself. They're probing, testing. Boundaries, I can feel their patterns. I can predict, to some degree, their next moves." The lab's instruments flickered wildly, as if reacting to his new connection with the energies. Lyra's fear grew, but so did her understanding. He had crossed a threshold no human had ever reached. And yet he was still himself, at least in some essential way. By nightfall, the threats had become undeniable. Disturbances in the air coalesced into faint silhouettes, visible only through the glow of the potion's energy in Elias. They moved deliberately, intelligent, yet restrained. Assessing him, measuring his abilities, he realized with a mix of fear and awe that these were not mindless predators. They were entities capable of strategy, learning, and adaptation. And now they had discovered him. The whispers urged preparation, caution, and mastery. Elias clenched his fists, feeling the energy flow through him, readying himself for the first true confrontation. The woman appeared once more, her eyes grave. "They have found you," she said. "You cannot hide. The change you accepted has made you a beacon. The forces approaching will not show mercy. You must be ready, Elias. This is no longer about curiosity. This is survival and mastery." He nodded, feeling the weight of her words. The unseen threat circled closer, their presence undeniable and deliberate. Elias inhaled deeply, the potion's energy coursing through him, and prepared for the first encounter that would test everything he had become. The night deepened, shadows stretching and moving unnaturally, and the first true battle of mind, power, and instinct was about to begin. Elias stood in the center of the laboratory, the glow from the potion coursing through his veins and illuminating the shadows around him. The unseen threats had grown bolder, moving closer with deliberate precision. He could feel their intelligence, the way they calculated and analyzed, and he knew that hesitation could be fatal. His senses, enhanced and expanded by the potion, allowed him to perceive their energy patterns, anticipate movements, and respond before they acted. Yet, for all his power, a flicker of doubt lingered. He was still human at the core, and human. Error was never fully gone. The first visible forms emerged from the shadows outside the lab. Strange shifting shapes, fluid and almost liquid, yet undeniably sentient, glimmered faintly under the twin moons. They moved with intent, their every motion purposeful, testing the boundaries of Elias's abilities. He raised his hands instinctively. Feeling the potion's energy respond, the air shimmered as he focused, sending pulses of power outward to test them. The entities recoiled slightly, as if surprised by his awareness, but quickly recovered, circling closer, adapting, learning. Elias realized this confrontation would be a battle of mind and energy, not mere strength. Lyra watched from the observation deck, heart pounding. Elias, they're different. More than anything we've seen, she whispered, voice tight with fear and awe. He turned to her briefly, eyes glowing faintly, reflecting both determination and the alien energy swirling through him. No, he said calmly, but I can control this. I can defend myself. Defend us. They test. Yes, but they will not break me. The whispers from the potion guided him, teaching him instinctively how to respond, how to manipulate the energy around him, how to anticipate the next move before it happened. The first attack came in a ripple of light, a wave of energy that distorted the air itself. Elias reacted instantly, extending his hands and bending the force, redirecting it harmlessly against the lab walls. Cracks of glowing energy formed where the wave struck, and the entities recoiled. He could sense their surprise, their recalculation, and he understood with a thrill and fear alike they were learning from him, just as he learned from the potion. The battlefield was no longer physical, it was a war of awareness, anticipation, and energy. As the entities advanced again, more boldly this time, Elias felt the first hints of transformation deepen. His body glowed with a faint light, the energy coursing in precise rhythms, almost sentient, almost alive. The laboratory instruments reacted violently, sparks flying, screens flickering. Yet Elias moved through the chaos with clarity. Every pulse of energy, every movement, was guided by the whispers, the potion's power. He realized he could sense weaknesses in the entities, subtle variations in their energy that revealed their intentions. With careful focus, he redirected bursts of energy, repelling their attacks, shaping the battlefield without striking physically. The confrontation intensified. The entities adapted, moving unpredictably, testing Elias's control and strategy. Shadows stretched, twisted, and coalesced into more complex forms, probing for vulnerabilities. Elias's mind raced, processing multiple possibilities simultaneously, every potential outcome unfolding in fractions of seconds. He knew that each action carried consequences far beyond the lab, potentially reaching into the very atmosphere of the planet. But fear no longer controlled him, clarity and instinct guided him. The potion had not just given him power, it had sharpened his mind to a level beyond ordinary comprehension. Lyra's voice broke through the tension. Elias, what if they can't be stopped? She looked on, wide-eyed, as glowing energy pulsed from him like waves radiating across a pond. He turned, eyes meeting hers, steady and calm. Then we adapt, we survive. That is what this change was meant for. That is why I drank it. He extended his hands, feeling the energy respond like a living entity. The entities recoiled once more, their shapes distorting under the sheer force of awareness and control. He could sense their calculations, feel the hesitation in their movements. They had underestimated him. The battle reached its peak as the entities surged together. An overwhelming wave of energy aimed directly at him. Elias focused, drawing from the potion, bending, shaping, and redirecting the attack. The energy collided with itself, fracturing into brilliant patterns that illuminated the entire laboratory. For a moment, silence fell, broken only by the hum of the transformed lab and the faint whispers guiding him. The entities had retreated slightly, reassessing. Elias, breathing steadily, realized that this was only the beginning. The confrontation had tested his abilities, sharpened his mind, and revealed the scale of the dangers connected to the potion's power. The woman appeared once more. Emerging from the shadows as if drawn by the residual energy, "You're stronger than I imagined," she said softly, eyes bright with concern and respect. "But remember, power alone will not save you. Knowledge, strategy, and restraint, those are your true weapons now." Elias nodded, the glow around him dimming slightly as the battle ended. He felt exhaustion mixed with exhilaration, the first true taste of what the potion had given him. The confrontation had proven his power, but it had also shown the stakes. Beyond this lab, beyond this planet, greater challenges awaited on he would have to face them, transformed and aware, yet still guided by the fragile thread of humanity left within him. Elias stood alone in the laboratory, the faint glow of the potion still coursing through his veins. The entities had retreated, but he knew it was only a temporary pause. His body pulsed with energy, his mind sharper than ever, and yet a part of him still clung to the remnants of his old humanity. The battle had shown him his power, but it had also revealed the vast unknown that lay ahead. He realized the potion's true purpose was unfolding. It was not just a gift of strength, but a catalyst, a bridge to something beyond human understanding. As he focused, the energy responded instinctively. We could see threads of light stretching across the laboratory, connecting machines, walls, and even the shadows themselves. Each thread pulsed with a rhythm he could feel deep in his chest, as if the planet and the potion were communicating through him. The whispers returned, more insistent and clearer than ever. Learn, understand, transform. Elias closed his eyes, allowing the energy to flow through him fully, feeling every pulse, every vibration, every hidden pattern. His body shimmered as the transformation accelerated, muscles and nerves adapting, his senses stretching beyond ordinary limits. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes' time, no longer felt linear. Elias could sense the entities still lurking beyond the lab, their curiosity and calculation evident, yet he no longer feared them. The potion had taught him to see possibilities, to anticipate, to influence. He raised his hands instinctively, feeling the air itself bend to his will. Energy flowed around him like water, responding to thoughts and emotions. Realized that his transformation was not just physical, it was mental, spiritual, a merging of self with forces that transcended the planet, the laboratory, and even ordinary reality. Lyra watched from a safe distance, awestruck and fearful. "Elias, you're different," she whispered, unable to hide the mixture of wonder and dread in her voice. He turned toward her, glowing faintly, eyes reflecting the threads of light and energy around him. "I feel connected," he admitted, voice steady. "I can perceive more than just the lab or the planet. I can sense patterns across space, energy flowing in ways I cannot yet describe. The potion has opened doors. Doors I never imagined existed." She shivered, understanding the truth. He had surpassed humanity, stepping into a realm of awareness and power few could comprehend. The entities approached again, this time bolder, testing the limits of his abilities. Shadows and waves of energy rippled across the laboratory as they drew near, but Elias stood firm, calm, and resolute. The transformation had granted him more than strength. It had given him strategy, instinct, and control. He reached out, and the energy responded instantly, bending the approaching forces, guiding them, repelling them without harming. It was a dance of awareness and power, a battle not of violence, but of perception, reaction, and understanding. Each movement, each thought shaped the outcome, and he realized with clarity that his mastery over the potion's power was now growing exponentially. But with growth came a new awareness, a shadow of consequence. The potion had changed him, yes, but at a cost. His human impulses, emotions, and limitations were fading, replaced by clarity, focus, and raw potential. He wondered if he could retain himself through this transformation, or if the essence of Elias, the man who had drunk the forbidden liquid, would be consumed by the very power he now commanded. The whispers reminded him gently. Balance, choice, control. He understood then that transformation was not about surrendering entirely. It was about mastering the new while holding on to what mattered most. He reached the pinnacle of this first stage of change. As the entities made their final approach, Elias extended his hands fully, feeling the energy surge through every fiber of his being. The laboratory shimmered as the forces collided, not in destruction, but in harmony, a test of will and awareness. He could sense the entity's surprise. Even respect, they recognized his strength, his mastery, and the unique connection he now had with the energy that had transformed him. For the first time, he realized that the potion had not merely changed, it had awakened potential, both dangerous and magnificent. The confrontation ended with a quiet pause. The entities retreating slightly, observing and learning while Elias stood at the center of the laboratory, glowing faintly, pulsing with power. Lyra approached cautiously, her voice soft but firm. "Elias, can you control it? Can you remain yourself?" He looked at her, a faint smile touching his lips. "I think I can," he said, "but I must learn. The transformation is only the beginning. I can feel the universe stretching out before me, offering knowledge, power, and responsibility. If I fail, the consequences will be far greater than this laboratory, this planet, or even us." The woman appeared silently from the shadows, her gaze steady and knowing. "You have embraced the change," she said, voice calm yet filled with weight. "But remember, power alone is not enough. Knowledge, strategy, and understanding will determine whether you survive what comes next. The universe is watching. Elias, and now, so are you." The glow around him pulsed with understanding. He had changed, yes, but the journey was far from over. Beyond the laboratory, beyond the threats he had faced, a greater destiny awaited, a path that would test every part of him, human and beyond, in ways he could not yet imagine. Elias stood at the center of the laboratory, the air around him alive with energy that shimmered and pulsed like a living organism. The potion had fully integrated into his being, connecting him to forces he had never imagined, could sense. The universe itself in subtle vibrations, patterns of energy stretching across space, threading through stars and planets like invisible highways. His body and mind had evolved beyond human limitations. Yet within him, a small fragment of the man he once was, remained curiosity, courage, and a faint spark of empathy that tethered him to his old life. That small spark was all he needed to maintain control. Beyond the laboratory walls, the entities had gathered, aware now that he was no ordinary being. They shimmered in impossible shapes, some fluid, some angular, all intelligent, all calculating. Elias could feel their thoughts as waves of energy brushing against his mind. They were testing him, not just physically, but mentally, probing for weaknesses in perception, judgment, and control. For the first time, he realized that his journey was no longer confined to this planet, this laboratory, or even the immediate dangers surrounding him. The universe itself had noticed him, and he had to rise to meet it. He focused, drawing on the potion's energy with precision. The air rippled, bending under his will, and he extended his awareness outward. He could see energy flows across the laboratory, the planet's surface, and even the faint outlines of distant cosmic currents. The entities moved in response, circling and probing, and Elias sensed the first real opportunity. This was not a battle of brute strength, but a test of mastery. Every thought, every movement, every pulse of energy had to be calculated and intentional. Hesitation could unravel everything. The first wave of direct attack came as shimmering waves of light, moving faster than anything human eyes could track. Elias responded instinctively, bending the forces around him, redirecting energy with subtle gestures, creating barriers that were invisible yet impenetrable. The entities recoiled, surprised by the precision and speed of his control. Lyra, watching from a safe distance, could barely comprehend what she was witnessing. Sparks of energy danced across the laboratory, instruments overloaded, yet Elias remained calm, flowing with the power instead of struggling against it. As the confrontation escalated, Elias's mind expanded further, could perceive multiple possibilities, potential outcomes, and even the faint intentions of the entities themselves. The potion had not only transformed his body, but had sharpened his mind to perceive the universe in layers. Previously inaccessible to humans, shadows, energy waves, and even the faint whispers of distant stars became readable, each pattern informing his next move. He realized that mastery was not about domination, it was about understanding, guiding, and harmonizing with the forces Around him, hours passed in what felt like seconds. The entities, relentless, yet respectful, continued their tests, probing every weakness. Elias moved fluidly, his body glowing faintly as he extended his influence beyond the laboratory, touching the planet's surface, bending subtle currents of energy and sensing threats before they materialized. He felt the final stage of transformation approaching his humanity merging with the extraordinary powers the potion had granted, creating something entirely new, a being beyond human, yet not entirely alien. Then came the moment of ultimate realization. A surge of energy unlike anything he had encountered flowed through him, responding not just to his thoughts but to his will, his intent, his very essence. The entities recoiled instinctively, sensing the magnitude of power now emanating from him. Elias understood then that he was no longer simply defending himself or the laboratory. He was a force of balance, a bridge between the human and the cosmic, charged with responsibilities far beyond his imagination. He could sense lives, energy flows, and forces across space, and he knew that the next choice would define not only his fate, but the fate of countless worlds. Lyra's voice cut through the awareness, trembling with awe and concern. Elias, what? What are you now? He looked at her, eyes glowing with cosmic energy, the threads of the universe reflecting faintly within them. I am beyond human, he said softly, voice steady and calm. But I am still me. What? The potion did not take my choice, only enhanced it. Now I must decide how to use this power, how to protect, how to endure, and how to act wisely. The entities watched, circling, learning, yet deferring. They recognized him now, not as prey or target, but as a force equal to their intelligence, and perhaps beyond. The woman appeared again, emerging from the shadows with a mixture of respect and solemnity. You have crossed the threshold, she said. If you ever reach this point, the universe will test you. But remember, the true strength is not power itself, but understanding. Control, balance, humanity, in some form, must guide the extraordinary. You have done well, Elias, but the journey has only begun. He nodded, feeling the pulse of cosmic energy echoing in harmony with his own heartbeat. He had become something new, something powerful, yet he understood the responsibilities accompanying such power. As the entities finally dispersed, retreating into the shadows beyond the laboratory and the distant reaches of the planet, Elias exhaled deeply. The laboratory, though damaged and flickering with residual energy, felt calm once more. He looked at Lyra, the glow around him dimming slightly but still radiant. This is only the beginning, he said. I have changed. But now I must learn, protect, understand, and prepare. Outside, the twin moons shone over the barren landscape, energy currents shimmering faintly in the air and somewhere in the far reaches of space. Forces beyond comprehension observed him, aware now that a being beyond human had awakened. Elias's transformation was complete, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, and cosmically. He had drunk the forbidden potion, ignored the warnings, and survived. He had become something extraordinary, and yet he remained tethered to the man he once was, a reminder that even beyond human choice, will, and humanity still mattered. And now he would shape his own destiny, one decision, one act, one understanding at a time.